Welcome back to the fourth day of the Blair Sewalong. Today is going to be all about the waistband. So you are going to need your main waistband piece, your waistband lining piece, and then also your belt loops and of course your assembled skirt. We'll be starting with just your belt loop piece. And what you're going to do is you're going to go over to your serger or use whatever finishing method that you're going to use, and you are going to finish one long edge of your entire belt loop piece. And do this without trimming off the edge. And then take the other edge, or the unfinished edge, and you're going to fold it in wrong sides touching by 3/8 of an inch and give it a really good press. And then once you're done with that, you're going to fold the other edge, so the edge that you did finish, on top of the other side at 1/4 of an inch and give that a good press. And then we'll go over to our sewing machine and we are going to edge stitch down both of those long edges. Okay, it should look something like this when it is finished. Now we're going to cut this whole belt loop into 6 3.5 inch sections. There should be a little bit left over, and you can just discard whatever is left after the 6 pieces. And then using lots of steam on your iron, you are going to fold the bottom up by 1/2 inch, wrong sides touching, and give it a really good press for each of the belt loops. Now grab your waistband lining and make sure you know what the top and the bottom is, because you are going to be pinning the belt loops to the top of your waistband. So you're going to pin the raw edge, or the edge that you did not fold, with right sides touching to each of the notches along the top of your waistband lining. Now you can obviously pin this like normal, or like me, I'm going to use my trusty glue stick to do this. If you did pin them, then it is a good idea to go ahead and go baste all of these in place 3/8 of an inch down from the top edge. Okay, now you're going to need your main waistband, and with the wrong side up, make sure that you know what the top and the bottom is once again, and you're going to fold up the bottom edge by 3/8 of an inch, wrong sides touching, and give that a really good press. Okay, now you're going to take your main waistband and your waistband lining, and you are going to pin them along the top edge, matching up all of the notches and keeping the belt loop sandwiched in the middle. Once you have pinned them all, you'll go over to your sewing machine and you are going to stitch this at a normal 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then you're going to want to grade down those seams. I like to grade down the main waistband seam allowance to about 1/8 of an inch, and then the waistband lining to maybe about 1/4 or 3/8 of an inch. You also might want to trim down the belt loops a bit there too. This will just give you a much better finish in the end. It also helps your buttonholes so that they're easier to sew with less bulk. And then you're going to press all of those seam allowances toward the lining and away from the main waistband. And then you're going to understitch by stitching just inside of the lining, keeping all of those seam allowances in the stitching underneath. Okay, now that the waistband is all assembled and ready, we can attach it to the skirt. You're going to pin the bottom of the waistband lining to the top of the skirt, matching all of the notches. So the right side of the waistband lining should be touching the wrong side of the skirt, and the waistband will extend past the edges of the button bands by a ½ inch on both ends. Now keep in mind that the waistband lining notches are going to match with the darts, the side seams, and then also the center back darts. And then we're going to stitch those layers together at a normal ½ inch seam allowance. Okay, it should look something like this, with once again the waistband extending past the edge of the button band by a ½ inch on both center front edges. And then you do want to grade down those seams a bit just to reduce bulk. I think here what I did is I just trimmed down the main skirt, since it was the bulkier one, down to about half of the normal seam allowance. And then you're going to press the seam allowances and the entire waistband up and away from the skirt. So the seam allowances will all now be tucked within the waistband lining. Flip your skirt over so the wrong side is facing up. And we're going to take that folded edge of the main waistband and we're going to fold it down along the seam line until the bottom edge is just covering the seam where the main skirt meets the waistband lining. Put a few pins in the side there, and this is just like when we sewed up the bottom of the button band. But we are going to make a seam that is in line with the edge of the button band to complete the waistband edge. Now, because we folded the bottom edge up by 3/8 of an inch instead of the normal ½ inch, it should slightly cover the seam where the main skirt meets the waistband lining. I do find it easiest to go ahead and mark the stitch line that I'm about to do, just to make sure it is in line and parallel with that center front edge. And then we'll go over to our sewing machine and we will sew this line, once again, directly in line with the center front edge of the button band. And then you're going to want to trim down those seam allowances, especially that top little corner, so that you get a nice point. And then you're going to turn it right side out using a point turner to make sure, once again, that you get a nice point, using steam on your iron, and give it a really good press. And then continue to pull down that bottom folded edge of the entire waistband, making sure that the bottom edge just slightly covers the seam where the main skirt meets the waistband lining. Now, once again, I am using my trusty glue stick, but you can also just pin this. And then you're going to edge stitch all the way around the entire waistband, leaving your needle down at each corner and pivoting. I like to start at the center back, about where one of the belt loops is, just so that that starting and stopping point will be covered. Okay, that is looking pretty good, and we are almost done for today. So the last thing that we need to do is finish off our belt loops. So we're going to pull the folded edge of each belt loop down so it's flat against the waistband and the skirt. The folded edge of each of the belt loops will extend past the bottom of the waistband by about a ½ inch, and you are going to pin or use a glue stick just to stick those or pin those into place. And then we're going to go over to our sewing machine and we're going to edge stitch along the bottom folded edge of each of those belt loops through all of the layers. You want to stitch back and forth a few times just so that that seam is extra secure when you're putting in a belt and there might be some tension on it. Okay, and that is it for today. We are getting so close to being done with our Blair skirt. Come back tomorrow and we will tackle the remaining buttons and buttonholes and the belt.